So I suggested in a previous post that much of the symbols in things are actually sexual in nature, or I suggested that they could be sexual in nature. I used the example of my Cliff Bar here, which is approximately the size of a cell phone, but you'll notice the colors on there. See how you have the blue and white colors there, and the red and white? And you notice I said that those are sexual colors. Now you see also, if I present this here like this, and if I turn that around, you see that how they put the seam right along the edge there, like the labia of a woman? So you get the things you put in your mouth are also the things that we put down here. See? It's just so that thing, so that would be like spreading the pussy. And so that, see, that keeps people in the mode of putting things in their mouth and then being driven by the sexual impulses. See this part right there? See, that's kind of like an anus on the label. See that size right down there? So you got the sexual colors of blue and the cloud white in the sky, and then you got the way, it's the way it's made, see? But it's the way everything's tied together in a culture that has made fertility symbolism. And so it's the crucifix itself that we look at everywhere. It's like, I'm always wondering, why do we have to look at that thing everywhere we go? It's like, the crucifixion is one of the most frightening things that ever happened. But on the other hand, you know, if you think about the way Jesus is nailed to the cross, you know, his arms are spread out. You know, it's like the fallopian tube of a woman, you know? See, you got the fallopian tube on each side. So and Jesus is kind of a feminine. He's a feminine figure. He's not like this big symbol of masculinism, although when I created the concept of, the counter concept to that, machine gun Jesus, he's really masculine. See, he's really thin, and he's got a really powerful six-pack, and he's not a drinker. He's got a powerful six-pack, and he wears a machine gun, and he's named Machine Gun Jesus, because he's here like coming back after, in the novel, he's coming back after 2,000 years, and he's like, I'm going to deal with these people in a different way this time. I'm going to show them what I'm really about. I'm going to teach them morality. And he does that on the basis of the revelation. But his first time around was just this kind of pleasant fertility religion that was founded. It was appropriated in a way, perhaps by the Romans, just as John Kennedy's assassination and the blood that was part of that assassination and the pink color of Mrs. Kennedy's dress was used to get people on the trail of their instincts, to drive them down the road of instinctive sexuality. And so the blood combined with all the men who were desiring power but bereft of power, and who saw in John Kennedy this great symbol of power and wealth and fertility. So there again, you had a kind of event that was appropriated for fertility symbolism. But the crucifixion itself, with the arms laid out on the cross like that, I think that very cynically in the past was created as a symbol of fertility. So the masses, the females in their minds, they like to produce children. See, that's the source of their power. And so when you have that symbol of the cross, that symbol of the cross leads people to be fruitful and multiply. And it's built into the culture all around us so that people follow that it's for two purposes. The other purpose was brought out in the unmasking, and that is to get people to think of their life being reconciled after death rather than working to reconcile it in life, so that people kind of put off any kind of political action in the world or any kind of acting on the world, and they have children. And children stand in the way of revolution because people love their children. They don't want to lose their children. They love their children. And they think of, when they think of children, they think of not being violent, not being revolutionary, being like loving. But for a revolution, you can't be like that. You're not going to be nice to everybody in a revolution, because the idea is to take their power away from them. So in reality, I don't think a lot of people notice that the crucifix has that kind of fallopian tube symbolism, and that females desire deeply, as the philosopher Nietzsche discovered. He discovered that the one thing that women love most of all is the power that they have in their ability to create children, and that this is the key to their psychology. And so he opened up that whole key and even in a way for men, so that men could, if they knew that, then they had a little more power over females, because they know what touches their hearts, what touches their minds. Whether or not post-Nietzscheans came along and decided to use those things against females is part of my longer story that I have to tell. That in a way our society does not have like counseling for abortion and things like that, because if it did, then females wouldn't feel bad. They would not feel guilty. And their feeling guilty, unfortunately, weakens them in the most powerful way. They have a very strong power. Their power is in their ability to create. But I've known a few women who have had abortions, and they've told me, I felt awful about what I did, So they feel bad about it. And it's almost like guys get set up because we don't know these kinds of things, and then we will start talking to them. We will start talking to them about God. And that makes them feel bad, because they feel like before God, they feel like they did something bad. And so there's societal symbols in place that prevent our even talking about these things in a spiritual way, because it will be upsetting to most females, and then to most guys. Like my friend and I, we talk about that all the time, but we didn't know that. You see, we have to reconstruct that kind of from how I had to reconstruct it over many years, because I was fortunate enough, and unfortunate in a way, but fortunate enough to know several females who did it, and they told me how they did. They told me that they felt terrible about it, and so then it made me realize that if a lot of times, like, it seems like females don't want to talk about God, it's probably has something to do with that, and that they put that in, like the guilt. That's the guilt that's mixed into the religious recipe, so that we can't have harmony between females and males, because females in some cases can't be frank enough to say, hey, don't talk about that, because that makes me feel sensitive about, I don't feel right before God. See, that's not really, see, what they're saying sometimes is that they don't believe in that kind of God, like a really judging, harsh, divine power type God of the Old Testament. They don't believe in that, and I don't particularly believe in that either. And some forms of Christianity would precisely deny that there is even a kind of judgment like that. But what I'm saying is, if men are often inclined to talk about such things, and females are feeling that way about them, then that has an impact on the relations between men and women. So when I suggested commune existence earlier, certainly for myself, it would have very little to do with Christianity, other than that we'd all be Christian to one another. You know, it wouldn't be based on that religion because because I reject that religion.